We're rolling right along in the Massachusetts high school football season, week 5, and another game of the week with Duxbury going head-to-head with Xaverian this Saturday at the field behind me. As always, for Brennan Hall, I'm Scott Barboza with your Thursday preview, brought to you by the Massachusetts Army National Guard. For more information, go to nationalguard.com. Now, Brennan, obviously, we talk about these two teams, no strangers to each other. Last year, Duxbury goes down to Xaverian, comes away with a win. Xaverian fallen on some tough times recently, going to be very motivated coming into this one.
Yeah, obviously you think back to that fourth quarter last year, Riley Nathan taking over, had a huge pick, a huge touchdown there. So, yeah, there's obviously a lot of motivation here for vengeance. Obviously, it looks like Duxbury hasn't really, I mean, they graduated a huge class from last year, but they picked up right where they left off, it seems like. I think it's going to be an interesting struggle again. I don't know if it's going to be as high scoring as last year, but I mean, you look at Xaverian's schedule. There's not a lot of teams in the state that would have come out of there better than a 1-3 record. In all honesty, and I think Xaverian has a lot of the key components back from last year. You look at Austin Dakar, Maurice Hurst, Ray Goby, Hunter Towdy, DJ Paliuka, etc. So I think it'll be a really intriguing matchup here. So.
Obviously, a lot of those people that the Dragons saw last year, they'll see again. And as you mentioned before, obviously, a lot of those big bodies up front for Xaverian. One of the things we'll be looking for is to see how the battle in the trenches goes. And we caught up with CJ LeConte, who's obviously an integral part of the Duxbury offensive line, but also a lacrosse standout. We got his opinion on that Xaverian line. Well, I'm joined now by the man who will have a primary responsibility of stopping that Xaverian defensive line, CJ LeConte. Looking at, Maurice Hurst, Ray Goby, all those guys that clog up the middle, what really comes at you when you look at the film this week?
Well, last night we watched some film on them, and I can't speak enough about them. I just have a lot of respect for Big Mo and Goby. They're both big boys, and I'm going to have my hands full. Just can't speak enough about just the program in general, too. Just great program.
Obviously, you guys know what you're dealing with this matchup coming in here, and they're also going to be very motivated coming off, the win that you guys put on down there. What are you expecting to see from this team as a whole in terms of the defense? So let's get into that matchup here. What do they do that makes them successful?
Well, they're just big and athletic, They have the number 32, Hunter Tout, I believe, the big middle linebacker. He's flying around back there. He's going to be hard to stop, and I just expect them to bring everything they got to try and stop us, and it should be a good matchup.
Now, we've obviously talked about this ad nauseum in the past, but a great person to ask would be you. Obviously, the natural lacrosse football connection here with both yourself and a lot of guys on this team that are able to play both sports and play it at a very high level. What do you think, talk about Coach Mameron, Coach Sweet. Is there any kind of common ground there that you guys find with that? And what do you think, has helped make both of those programs so successful?
Well, I really just think it's all coaching. The talent's there, but if everyone's playing individually, then it's not going to amount to anything in the end. And I think it's really just can't speak enough about our coaching here in Duxbury to get a bunch of good athletic individuals to play together as one team.
Thanks, CJ. Brennan, sticking with the offense here, we look at this Duxbury group. Obviously, you think of the spread offense here. Matt O'Keefe, was a tremendous presence for them last year, throwing the ball over the place. But really, the rushing attack has been the key here for the Dragons this year.
Yeah, a bit of a philosophy change. You don't have as many weapons as they did last year, Don Weber and the like. John Hurvit, by all means, though, we knew he was going to have a big season coming in, and he's done nothing really to refute that. He's had some big gains. He had a big day against New Bedford a couple weeks ago. Just really all around, just a real guy who hits the hole fast. Guy who has a lot of different moves. He can be slippery, but he's also a workhorse for them.
And we caught up with John, a potential Mr. Football candidate. Hanging out in front of the treadmills here, obviously a guy that's doing a heck of a lot of running this year, John Hurvit. I would like to say, one of our leading contenders now for the Mr. Football Watch. If you look at the site every week in, week out, numbers you've been putting up have been very impressive, but I got to talk about the offensive line here too. Just talk a little bit about those guys that have been running in front of you this year.
Yeah, I mean, luckily we're playing to our strengths this year, and starting from the left, we have Kramer, who actually sprained his ankle, but his older brother Aaron's at BC, so runs in the family football. And then Coach Sherrick, who has been a 3-year starter now for us, and he's great, big up front. And then CJ LeConte, he's going to Army next year to play lacrosse, and he's a big, angry man who loves to hit and loves to block. So it's always fun running behind them. And then Ricky and Hurley on the right side, really pushing the D-line and really making some holes.
Obviously, you think about this offense the last couple of years with Matt O'Keefe, coming in last year. You think of spread offense, you think of passing the ball a little bit, but you guys have been able to run the ball pretty consistently the last couple of years as well. Just talk about how that ability to stretch teams out a little bit has helped you guys find those running alleys inside the tackle box and outside.
Yeah, I mean, the spread's awesome. I mean, you usually get 6 or 7 guys in the box, so the more they put in the box, the more likely we are to throw it. But if they take guys out of the box, it opens up some lanes and makes the offensive line much easier for them to block. So we try to run the ball.
You guys have caught the injury bug a little bit with the quarterbacks here, but Sean McCarthy stepped in this year, done a good job when he's been in there. You've had a couple other guys step in too. Just talk about, coming in and stepping in for Matt in that position. That's such an integral part of this offense and the knowledge of it. What have you seen from those guys?
Sean and Liam, they're doing a great job. I mean, they both know the system since freshman year, and Sean's been working hard all summer in passing league and trying to get down the offense better and get the timing down with the receivers. So he's really stepped in, and then after he got hurt, Liam stepped in, and I mean, he's just as good as Sean, just a little younger. So we got 2 great quarterbacks, and they love to compete.
And looking at this big physical Xaverian defensive front, obviously we all know all about them, but when you look at these guys on film, what are some of their tendencies and what are some of the things you think you're going to need to do to be successful on Saturday?
I mean, first things first, across the board, offense and defense, we just have to do our jobs, and that's what we're working on all week is you have one specific job and do it to perfection, and then hopefully everything else falls into place.
Now that we got Duxbury a little bit on both sides of the ball here, Brennan, let's look at this Xaverian offense. Obviously, the one thing we all think about is that, as you coined it last year, the 500-pound backfield with Towdy and Hurst. What does Duxbury have to do to slow down those guys?
First of all, I can't take full credit for that. That's our buddy Adam Kirkshin with the moniker there. But yeah, it's a physical offense. I think the knack on these guys Xaverian early on has been maybe not as fast as advertised, but they certainly have the bulk. You look at Maurice Hurst and Hunter Towdy, it's a pretty good combination there. I think they were expecting a little bit more out of these guys in the early going, but again, a tough schedule. However, they're going to outweigh you at the point of attack, this Xaverian offense, and it's going to be up to Duxbury to kind of, I think, mix things up and give them a lot of different looks and try to confuse them a little bit, and obviously have an integral piece there in Marshall McCarthy. He really is a missile out there in the linebacker corps for them. So
we've talked a lot about in the recent years about this Duxbury defense, the speed that they've brought, obviously from the outside on the defensive line, but also that secondary, obviously, with all those kids playing Division I lacrosse. But kind of lost in the middle was Marshall McCarthy, a 3-year starter. We caught up with Marshall. Joined now by the heart and soul of the Duxbury defense, Marshall McCarthy. Marshall, we've seen a group here the last couple of years that's been very fast, very physical. Talk about the secondary last year, all those kids and lacrosse turnover and all that good stuff. But you've kind of been the glue to this group for the last couple of years. How much of what you do week in, week out is, really aside from the physical, but more the mental, being the real quarterback of this group, and what does that mean to you from a leadership standpoint?
It's obviously a big role for our defense, but learning from the coaches, Coach Taylor, really, and Coach, our other coach, but I forget it right now. But they really put us in our positions to make the plays, and they really are what's behind us. Like, we study all the time, but they work their asses off all the time, and that's really the key to it for us.
You look at this Xaverian offense, a little different from years past. Obviously, they kind of phased in that big backfield there with Towdy and Hurst running the ball at times, but also come at some different looks on offense. When you look at the film with this team, what do you think you guys are going to have to do to be successful on Saturday?
Just can't be misaligned. I think our players are all capable of taking down, maybe not our D-backs, but all our interior and our backers are all capable of taking down Big Mo and Hunter. So I think we'll be fine if we're just aligned right.
You just made mention of that. This really could be a matchup of the front 7, front 8, whatever you guys tend to come with. How does that kind of cat and mouse game with trying to determine what they're going to be coming at you with, does that put more pressure on the interior of this defense to be able to keep those big bodies kind of bottled up on the inside and not let them get to the perimeter?
Not as much pressure. I think it's just we just have to do our job. Just contain them and do what we're supposed to do. That's really it.
And obviously, this is going to be a very motivated team. A couple losses coming in. Obviously, trying to defend your home turf here. You guys took a victory from them down there last year. Just this game's evolved into a little bit of a good non-league matchup here and a rivalry between you guys. Just what do you think that adds to this matchup coming in?
I don't know. I think it's just a game. It's just another game, and we just got to play our best like every week. So. Just got to come out and beat them.
Thanks very much, Marshall. Brennan, wrap it up here before we get to Coach Mameron in just a second here. Obviously, we mentioned this off the top. Xaverian's going to come in very motivated for this game and obviously looking to avenge last year's loss. But what do you think are some of the keys to success here for both of these teams to come away with a W on Saturday?
Yeah, like I said, I think positioning, I think pursuit to the ball is going to be key for Duxbury against the Xaverian offense, which has some size and a quality rushing attack. I think for Xaverian, execution is going to be key. Get down to penalties, but they're going to really have to. I think the key battle, as you alluded to earlier, is going to be C.J. Loconte, the center, and by all means one of the fastest kids actually on the Duxbury team, and how he controls the middle of the field. They got, two very good weapons there. Obviously, Maurice Hurst, we talk a lot about the Michigan commit defensive tackle, but Ray Goby, he's a Brockton kid. He's got that Brockton toughness about him. So, you got to watch out for him too. There's a lot of motivating factors here. Duxbury's coming into this game on a 30-game win streak, best in the state, and with Mameron's old gig, Everett, snapping their 28-game win streak, there's even more attention now on these guys, and I think Duxbury have to weather all those expectations.
Now that we got it on both sides of the ball, we caught up with the head coach of the two-time defending Super Bowl champions, Dave Mameron. Joined now by the head coach of the Dragons, Dave Mameron. Dave, obviously you guys went down there, a very tough game. That was pretty much in doubt to the fourth quarter there last year. They're going to come in very motivated here. Got those couple losses they're coming off of, and with last year on top of that, what do you just see that makes this Xaverian team so dangerous?
Yeah, that's the word I'd use. They're dangerous. They're I'm sure they're very hungry for a win. They've played three very, very tough teams that I don't know if we could beat, and I'm sure they're going to want to try to get a win this week, as do we.
We talked a little bit about this with John earlier. You think a spread attack here, you think passing the ball, spreading the ball around, but John's been tremendously effective behind that offensive line this year. How does that spread offense really allow you guys to be able to attack teams from the interior as well with that rushing attack?
It's, basically a numbers game where, if people are, covering our receivers with more than man coverage, then, it opens up the run game. And but, that being said, you have to be able to exploit the man coverage when they give it to you. So,
talking about the interior line here a little bit, talking to CJ before, obviously Mo Hurst is a guy that comes at you on film, Ray Goby, all those big bodies that they can stack in the middle, Hunter Towdy. How much of this game is going to be really directed on that matchup in the trenches?
It always comes down to the guys up front on both sides of the ball. So, we need our offensive line to perform, to communicate, and they have a tough challenge with all the size they have up front and their linebackers' size and speed. And likewise, on the defensive side of the ball, our D-line has to keep their O-line in check. So.
And looking at the defensive side of the ball, you guys have had, I think in the last couple of years, some really good perimeter players on the pass rush and obviously in the secondary, a lot of experience back there. But in the middle of that has really been Marshall McCarthy. Just what does he bring in terms of being the quarterback, really, of this defense?
It's, Marshall's been out there now for 3 years, so experience really helps, especially at the linebacker position. And, he's done a great job the first 4 games, making sure everyone's lined up in the right spot and knows their job.
Thank you very much, Coach. Now, Brennan, as we do every week, we get into our picks at this segment. We've got a lot going on this weekend, obviously. Some interesting league games, as we mentioned here, not a big non-league game. But some other ones with, perhaps teams looking to kind of prove something, I think this week is kind of the theme that I come up with here. First game off the bat I'm looking at is Burlington-Reading. Obviously that Reading defense is playing out of its mind right now. Can Marcus Odaya and that Burlington offense, can they move the ball against this team? Yeah,
I do think Burlington's line is a little bit underrated, but, that Reading defensive line, Matt Comerford, that's where it all starts. And yeah, you got to like Reading and the way they're playing right now, the swagger there on defense. And obviously offensively they bring a lot to the table too with Drew Belcher, kind of a real true dual threat and a big target. They try to tackle at 6'4", 200 pounds, but he's got a great receiver on the perimeter in there, and Ryan Maney. So I just, I think Burlington will keep it close. I just don't see Reading losing that game. I'm going to go with Reading 17-10.
With the way the weather's been, we've been enjoying some rain here. I love the tweet earlier this week from Matt Comerford saying, "Get me out on the grass field. I want to eat that mud." I love the enthusiasm there. So with that, and for many other reasons, I'm going to go with Reading in that game. Definite change of tone here with two teams that are coming off very big Hockomock upsets last week, Foxborough, Stoughton, but obviously the Black Knights entering this game with heavy hearts with everything that happened with David Wade this weekend.
Yeah.
Brennan, do you think Stoughton will be able to maintain their composure and be focused for this very important Davenport game?
Yeah, and obviously our thoughts and prayers go out to the Wade family and everyone involved in Stoughton football this week. It's been a trying week this week, and but looking at the game itself, I think Stoughton, they got a debut in our poll this week, and for very good reason. They've been playing. You look at the way they just dominated that game against Mansfield. I think that speaks for itself. I think Kevon Howard has been tremendous for Foxborough. I expect him to get a lot of carries. He's been their workhorse, but Stoughton's got some athletes there.
Yep. And
obviously you can always overlook the inspiration there this week, and it's going to be an interesting atmosphere there on Friday night, I suspect. But I just think Stoughton, just on paper alone, has a little bit of an edge. So I'm going to go with Stoughton there. I'm going to say, again, by a score here.
I'm going to go with the emotional pick here. No disrespect for Kevon Howard and what he's done with the Foxborough Warriors there. I mean, I really think he's truly been one of the best backs in the state this year. But really hard to pick against Stoughton. I think they're going to come through with the victory. Talking about other rivalry games going into the Bay State Hurvit, one of the really best rivalries in the state, I feel, year after year. Maybe not the best competition in some years recent, but with our good friend John Sarianitis there, I know he's going to want to hear a plug for him. Walpole, Norwood. Do the Mustangs have a chance of pulling an upset here?
You got to look back to last month. Norwood takes Natick right to the wire. They're up 10-7. It takes the Troy Flutie touchdown pass of Brian Dunlap with 10 seconds left to pull it off. Norwood is underrated, and I think they really thrive on that. And these guys are buying into Sarianitis' system. He's a great defensive coach. I think they're going to develop a good game plan after this. I'm going to call Norwood upset. I'm going to say Norwood by 3.
Text messages will be pouring in from Barry Greener and company anytime now, but I'm going to pick the smart money here. Not that we have any money riding on this, but I'm going to pick Walpole. I think, what we saw last year, the defense that took its lumps against Dennis Yarmouth. Thinking back to that playoff game last year, a very good group that returns most of its core. I think Walpole's going to be very tough to beat. And I know everybody keeps asking us for our Natick Walpole pick. You're going to have to wait a couple weeks on that, but I'm going to go with Walpole this week. Looking over to the ISL, perhaps our game of the week there. Nobody can slow down Governor's offense, but maybe BB&N can this week.
Yeah, I mean, they've scored close to, or I think maybe over 100 points in the first 8 quarters of play in the ISL. Say what you want, 12-minute quarters, but whatever. Those guys can score at will. You saw it with last year with Tate Chizakis and Eli Morrissey, and what a combination that was last year. And again, they're going to those two guys, and it's really paid off. I think BB&N, Brendan O'Neill is an elite talent for that league. And John Papp is obviously one of the better coaches in the area. But I just think Governors, they got something rolling right now. I think they keep it going. I'm going to say Governors wins 20-10.
With some of the finest lacrosse played in the Commonwealth usually going on behind us here in Duxbury, I'm going to go with the stronger lacrosse program here, and I'm going to go with Governors. Stick with that trend. Tough break for St. John's Prep, you could say, last week. They go down to Brockton in our game of the week last week and come away with a big win. And they go down in our rankings because of Barnstable creating some ruckus there, if you could say. But now Prep comes back, travel a little bit further down Route 24 to Bridgewater-Rainiman, and a very intriguing non-league matchup.
Yeah, that's going to be a low-scoring slugfest. Prep's got some line, and BR, basically invented the waggle play, and they've always got great line play. Always, that's been a staple of going back to Mark Colombo's days. And they've got a few horses this year from what we understand, and those guys are really just blowing people off the ball. I know I picked St. John's Prep to lose last week, and I got some heat for it. I'm gonna go with BR this week. Sorry, guys. I like BR making the upset here. I think BR makes a statement. I think a lot of the talk in the OCL is about Barnstable right now, and I think the Trojans are they obviously have that game circled, but I think they want to make a statement of their own.
You stole my upset pick, so I'm going to stick with the Eagles here because we've seen it every week now. The Eagles are actually trying to kind of come with some different looks here. Get the Wildcat last week with Alex Moore and Jonathan Thomas running out of that backfield. It's going to be very tough to stop. I think BR is playing a little bit maybe with a chip on their shoulder, as you mentioned, after Barnstable. People maybe overlooking that upcoming date there. But I'm going to stick with the Eagles. It's going to be a close game, though. I'm saying one possession. And then we come back here to Duxbury, wrap it up with Xaverian. Again, a very hungry team coming in here. Duxbury with that 30-game winning streak on the line. Who you got?
I don't know. I think Duxbury's got their number the last couple of years. I think they continue it here. I think Duxbury is going to throw some things at them that they haven't seen. Not that we've seen anything, obviously, but Mamron's always got a good defensive game plan. I think if they get up early on Xaverian and Xaverian starts going to that passing game, that'll be big because Duxbury, I feel like they have the guys that can cover those receivers. So I'm going to go with Duxbury again to kind of take the series again.
I'm looking at my matchup for this week is going to be to see the cat and mouse game between offensive and defensive coordinators with Xaverian and Coach Taylor over here in Duxbury. I want to see how many people are loaded into the box for Duxbury, if they feel like they're going to be able to cut down that running attack between the tackles, or if they're going to, perhaps leave, as you mentioned, DJ Pagliuca and some of those guys on the outside on an island a little bit against their cornerbacks. I'm looking at that matchup. But as you mentioned, I think they always come with some kind of wrinkle in the game plan. I'm going to pick with Duxbury here, just on the sheer athletic ability, I think, from 1 to 53, you could say. So I'm going to stick with Duxbury. I think it's probably going to be about a 10-point game. But again, we encourage you folks to come down here to Duxbury. Reminder that it's a Saturday start because of Eastern Equine encephalitis, and that's why they call it Triple E, because it's a mouthful, folks. You try it sometime. But we'll be down here all day along with our friends from the Massachusetts Army National Guard. We'll have a tent. We'll have some swag for you. If you like lanyards with Brennan and I's picture on it, maybe you want to keep that, maybe you don't. I don't know. But either way, we're going to be here, 3 o'clock kickoff. Brennan, you got anything else to add?
No sleep till Gillette.
That's right. Get the hashtag trending already. This is the second week now we've asked you, can you please get the hashtag trending? That's all we ask. It's not much. But for now, for Brennan Hall, I'm Scott Barboza, thanking our friends at the Massachusetts Army National Guard. For more information, go to nationalguard.com. But until next week, we just got to play these games, and we'll see you then.